From next month, e-cigarettes are going to come under the same rules as tobacco when it comes to the amount of nicotine that's allowed in them and the way they are advertised. The new regulations covering e-cigarettes are agreed in Europe to try to bring this brand new industry under some kind of control. But there are fears that members of the public might stockpile their favourite e-liquid solutions in case they disappear. Jay Unger went to the industry's annual conference in London to see what people involved in making and selling e-cigarettes think about the new restrictions. They call their conference Vape Jam Expo.
So I'm walking into the XL arena and there are literally hundreds and hundreds of people here, all with e-cigarettes in hand. And I'm just coming into the arena now and wow.
E-cigs are popular, very popular. Globally, sales of vapor devices surged to $9.8 billion last year. That's according to Euromonitor International. However, many suppliers are concerned about the new amendments made to Article 20 of the Tobacco Directive, which is often referred to as the TPD. These regulations will govern what maximum strength of nicotine can be sold, as well as what exactly suppliers can put into their e-liquid solutions.
What goes into a flavour is it's made up of different compounds, but what we supply are diluents, which is basically the carrier, nicotine, and then the flavouring. So you've got two different types of diluent, VG, which is vegetable glycerol, and PG, which is propylene glycol. And then you've got the nicotine, depends on what strength you want it on, but you can mix it from 0.3 or 1 up to 2.4%. And then obviously you add the flavour.
Archie Powell is the managing director of Decadent Vapors, an e-liquid company that provides customers the different components to make their own solutions.
On my phone, I'm just going to access a website that I know of where you can buy 99% nicotine. And I just want you to have a look at it and what you think to it. Okay? So, showing you this website, what's going through your head?
Wow, that is so dangerous. I mean, when we dilute our nicotine in the lab, we go into shutdown in the area that we do it because everybody's wearing full protective clothing. And with extractors going off and everything, because it's really, really dangerous, and that frightens me. Why do you need 99.9% nicotine? Would be what's going through my head. You don't need that high level to be able to mix your own. Like we sell at 5.4, that's easy to dilute down to whatever level you want. And when you sell a 5.4% nicotine solution, that's safe. To sell it at 99.9 is not safe.
Are you concerned then?
Yeah, I am really concerned. Yeah, and stuff for the TPD, this is what I'm absolutely in favour of, to stop things like this. But unfortunately, what's going to happen with the TPD is people will be able to find sites like this and buy stupidly high concentration of nicotine to do God knows what with. I mean, that's a poison at that level, that's a poison.
From the 20th of May, the new EU regulations will come into force in a bid to regulate a market that has been, up until this point, compared to the Wild West. However, some fear that the restrictions the TPD will impose will cause customers to panic, leading them to stockpile their favourite flavours. Even more worryingly, industry experts I've spoken to are concerned the new laws could create a black market in liquid solutions. Demetrios Agrofiatos has been campaigning on vaping issues for the last 7 years.
A lot of the hardcore vapors, the people who have been vaping for a long time, feel it's the end, it's the doom and gloom. So there is a lot of demand out there for DIY supplies and pure nicotine in 100 milligram or even 1,000 milligram concentration, which they can dilute at some point, which is unfortunate. There's a lot of good flavors out there that people could be using, but they fear that they're going to go away from the market with the upcoming limitations of the TPD. So while from one hand we understand that the TPD is trying to protect the consumer, they're creating a problem that they haven't even thought about, and that is that these people are getting their hands on raw materials to create their own e-liquid in their houses. And the other equation is a black market that's going to be formed, just like we have cigarettes now. I mean, if there's a big black market of cigarettes here in Europe coming from various countries. I think we're going to see the same thing with liquids as well too.
I've heard stories about people stockpiling huge amounts of nicotine. Is that something that you've come across?
I've heard about it. When we check on the forums, we see a lot of it going on because people are afraid. If you found something that saved your life and then the government's threatened to take it away, you would do anything that you could to protect and have that choice going forward. So Yeah, certainly I've heard about it, and it's not something that I agree with. I don't like it. I think people should stand up and fight for their rights, and the stockpiling and black market is not the solution, especially if we want to help other smokers out there that have not discovered it. I kind of consider it as a selfish thing as well, too. So, hey, I'm just going to watch out for myself and stockpile nicotine. But to me, ultimately, how about my mom or my cousin or my friend that wants to discover vaping? They're not going to have the opportunity. So we really got to think overall the public health and how it's going to benefit it, and come up with a solution and a good regulation for electronic cigarettes so people won't have to go to those extremes.
Some of the legislation that has been touted about is going to be cost prohibitive for a lot of businesses. A lot of the small businesses won't be able to afford to become TPD compliant.
I've spoken to the EU Commission, the regulatory body that made the original proposals on how European countries should regulate the market. They said e-cigarettes are a relatively new product and their market share is growing. While they may have a role to play in smoking cessation or reduction, their long-term effects on public health are not yet known. The new regulations will allow consumers to benefit from improved safety and quality requirements. So for now, as the market continues to grow, it seems that suppliers are just waiting to see how their customers react to the changes.
That's Jay Unger reporting on the changes that e-cigarette users will notice when the new EU regulations come into effect next month.